Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to week number 4, recorded lecture number 12. Well, in today's lecture, we are going to complete our topic effective oral presentations, and we covered this topic in the last two lectures as well. So today we shall be completing the remaining part of this topic, and hence this is how we are going to conclude this topic in today's lecture. Okay, so in the last two lectures we have covered some parts of effective oral presentation. Like in the first lecture, we talked about knowing purpose of the presentation and analyzing audience. We also discussed different types of audience. Then in the second lecture, that was lecture number 11, we discussed how to organize content of your presentation, that is how to organize the information or explanation or persuasion that you have. So we categorized organization into three broad categories. First was introduction, in which we learned how to make our introduction more appealing and how to involve audience. Second was body of the oral presentation, of course, which covers details of the main points that you preview in introduction. And third broad category was conclusion, that how to effectively conclude your presentation. So today's this presentation, this recorded lecture begins with building audience rapport, how to build rapport with your audience. And the first thing that we are going to learn that can be used to build audience rapport is effective imagery. And in effective imagery, there are many imageries that we will talk about, but the first one is analogies. Analogies, it's a plural form, actually singular is analogy. So what is analogies? In order to make your presentation effective and natural, right, we have to use this imagery as well, otherwise your presentation will sound very dry, right? So what is analogies? Analogies are a comparison of similar traits between dissimilar things, can be effective in explaining and drawing connections, right? So analogy is a comparison of similar traits between dissimilar things, and imaginary can be effective in explaining and drawing connections. For example, life is a box of chocolates. Apparently, if we see, there is no similarity between life and box of chocolates, right? But of course, those who are expert users of the language, and if your audience has that level, of course you have to use these imageries according to your audience level, right? So if they can understand, like, using such analogies will definitely help you make your presentation more natural and effective. Second analogy that we talk about are metaphors. Metaphors are actually a comparison between otherwise dissimilar things without using words like or as. The things that we compare in metaphor, they are actually dissimilar, right? And for using metaphor, we do not use like and as, because like and as, they are used in similes that we will talk about. For example, metaphors like our competitors' CEO is a snake when it comes to negotiating. Just calling the competitor's CEO as a snake. Apparently, there is no connection between the CEO is a human being and a snake. A snake is, of course, a reptile. But actually, what they are referring to, we use these metaphors even in Urdu, and this makes our, you know, language more appealing to the audience, right? So, like, you know, we say quite common metaphor that we use. I have heard using students in class, in physical classes, they use that in Urdu, and they say, he is cheetah of our class, or she is cheetah of our class. Like, apparently there is no comparison between that animal cheetah and that student, but it is being used to show smartness of a particular student. So when you use such metaphors in your presentations, right? But please be sure that you make correct usage of metaphors and analogies, right? So that is a metaphor. You can also use similes. Like, simile is like we can say, uh, it has closer meaning to metaphor, but in similes we use words like and as, which we do not use in metaphor. For example, simile is he or she is a cunning fox. It can be for male or for a female, right? That is, as cunning as. This structure makes it similar, and it, like, if I translate it for the sake of understanding in Urdu, like in Urdu we say, यार वो इतना मक्कार है जितना के लोमड़ी, या वो लोमड़ी जितना मक्कार है, या वो लोमड़ी जितनी मक्कार है. It depends on the sex. So similes can also serve the same purpose as the metaphors do, but in similes we use words like as and like. Like, sometimes we use similes, well, he he runs as fast as train, right? So making his speed or similar to train, so that is simile. Sometimes we require that, so you can get similes related to your topic. While you are searching, you may also keep them in mind and search for them. But there shouldn't be too many metaphors and too many analogies and too many similes, right? Just one or two would be enough, I guess. Then you can also include personal anecdotes. Personal anecdotes are those small personal experiences, but they should be relevant to the topic. If they are not relevant, then please do not share personal experiences unless they are relevant to the topic. And the last thing that you can use to build audience rapport, and especially under effective imagery, that is worst and best case scenarios. The topic that you are discussing, or that is topic for your presentation, you can take best cases of that topic, and you can also take worst cases of those topic or those scenarios related to the topic, that will help capture attention of your audience. All right, so let's move forward. Now we have building audience rapport with the help of verbal signposts. Though I discussed a few things related to verbal signposts in last lecture conclusion part, but they were limited to conclusion only. So let us see few more verbal signposts. Just we should keep one thing in mind. Our speaking speed is much faster than one's or our audience's comprehension and retention speed, right? So if we speak so much and without using these verbal signposts, it's likely that our audience will not get the main message, and the main message may get lost somewhere. So to avoid that, we need to use verbal signposts, right? And these verbal signposts, like one form of verbal signpost that has been discussed here, that is previewing. We can preview the message, before actually discussing the whole thing. We in advance we can give a bit hint of the point that we are going to cover. For example, the next segment of my talk presents three reasons. Now this is preparing your audience for the next segment of the talk, right? And you can mention those three reasons, that okay, first reason is this, second reason is this, and third reason is this. So this next segment of my talk actually is a verbal signpost which helps your audience to prepare themselves for your next segment, and they also it helps also in retention of the message, right? All right. Another verbal signpost that can be used for previewing is, let's now consider the causes of, for example, anything, the causes of global warming or environmental related issues. So these verbal signposts, like you can use them for previewing the information that you are about to share with the audience. Well, the second set of verbal signposts or heading or category is summarizing. As I said that I covered this summarizing part in conclusion part of the last lecture as well, but let's see it from a bit different perspective in this lecture. So when you summarize the point, you say, well, let me review. You have already covered few points, and then after some time, because you want your audience to retain those points, then you can say, well, let me review the first 4 points that we covered, right? Or you can say, well, to sum up the whole discussion, or you can say, well, to conclude, or you can say, well, okay, let me summarize it for you, right? Or you can say, well, let's have a recap for important points, right? Of course, your selection of these verbal signposts will be according to your relationship with the audience, right? Whether they are senior to you, they are junior to you. Similarly, you have to maintain a level of formality and informality according to your audience. Then switch direction. When you want to change from one point to another point, you again require verbal signposts. For example, thus far we have talked about, now this is like quite common, we use, okay, so far we have talked about advantages of computer. Now let's move to disadvantages. So this thus far or so far, and then now let us move to these two verbal signposts actually are a hint to the audience that now you are going to change the direction. So far you had been talking about advantages, and now you are moving towards disadvantages. So the direction has changed from advantages to disadvantages, and this change in direction has been indicated by these verbal signposts, thus far and now let's. So this is another purpose of verbal signposts that you can use. Well, moving forward, verbal signposts, non-verbal messages for presentations. We were discussing verbal signposts. Now we are talking about non-verbal messages for presentations. Though we have already covered non-verbal communication, we have talked about functions of non-verbal communication, and we also discussed various forms of non-verbal communication. But this non-verbal message that we are discussing today, that is specifically related to presentations only. The previous discussion, previous general lecture was overall importance and functions of non-verbal in communication. But today's one is specific to presentation skills. So number one, although what you say is most important, but non-verbal messages you send can also have a powerful effect on how well your message is received, right? Despite the most important thing is your content and your expertise in your subject area, but at the same time we also have to focus on the non-verbal, which can enhance effectiveness of your content of your message, or it can also decrease importance of your content. So of course non-verbal cannot be ignored in oral presentations. Well, the first non-verbal is how you look. So what they say, look terrific, right? Because of course not all, as we have already talked about, neutral audience and uninterested audience, and friendly audience and hostile audience. Not all types of audiences will judge you by your appearance, but at least some of them will judge you by your appearance, right? And if your appearance is not according to the occasion, then it might create some negative impact, at least on some members of that audience. So it's better to that you keep your appearance according to the expectation of your audience, right? So be sure you dress professionally, right? You do not go in a casual dress, or you do not wear jeans and such casual wear that you use every day. Though some organizations may be fine with the informal dress, but they still, even today, number of these organizations is very less. Most of the organizations still expect you to be formally dressed up. Okay, third point, you should dress at least as the best dressed person in the audience, right? So well, of course you won't be able to know who has dressed how in your audience, but audience analysis had taught us, if you know about experience of your audience, if you know about their education level, if you know about their culture, maybe these things would be enough to guide you how to look terrific for your non-verbal appearance. Well, next non-verbal is animate your body, right? Animate your body, be enthusiastic and let your body show it. Do not look tired, do not look clumsy, do not look careless, right? So you are enthusiastic, and your body should show that yes, you are enthusiastic. That actually motivates your audience and keeps them interested, that you have not been forced to give the presentation, rather you are energized to give it on your own. Use a variety of gestures, but do not consciously plan them in advance, right? Like use gestures, and we have already discussed gestures like your eye movement can be there, your hand movement can be there, your facial expressions can be there, right? Your eyebrows movement can be there, but do not overreact. Naturally use your gestures, but there is no need to artificially using your gestures, which looks unnatural, and your audience, at least some of them will easily detect it. Next is punctuate your words. So keep your audience interested by varying your tone, volume, pitch, and pace. Number one, I'll begin from pace. Do not be, your pace should be reasonable. You should not speak too fast that audience cannot get you and something important gets missed, because it is communicator's responsibility to take all the precautions to make the communication process successful. And as you know, what is successful communication? That your receiver gets almost the same meaning as you have, right? Similarly, you can vary your tone, volume, and pitch to show importance for one thing. For example, you can use you can stress the words that you want to focus more, or you can give bit longer pace for the ideas that you consider are more important, and you want your audience to notice that, right? So allow the audience to take in your ideas. If you are very fast in delivering your presentation, then the audience may not get what you wanted to say, and if they do not get, that will be a communication failure. Okay, get out from behind the podium. If there is a podium in the hall or in the room where you deliver presentation, well, in the beginning you might take a few seconds. If you are a novice presenter and you are a bit stressed, then you might take first 15, 20, 30 seconds or maybe a minute. You can stand behind the podium, but do not remain behind the podium for the whole presentation. As you feel better and you feel your stress level has gone down, and obviously that will go down after a minute or two, right? So having stress is not a problem. Every presenter has. Yes, as you become more experienced, obviously the level of stress or stage fright decreases, right? So you might take first few minutes, you may use podium as a shelter, but then you cannot be just planted that the whole time you spend behind the podium, right? Next, movement makes you look natural and comfortable, right? Again, the movement should not be very fast. Instead of moving left and right, it's better to move forward, means towards the audience, and backward, right? Of course, if there are like issues, unfortunately, like we are going through this COVID pandemic, or in that case, you should restrict your movement, and you should not go uh, closer to your audience, keeping that social distancing principle in mind. But otherwise, movement is going to help, and if you go back and forth, that will help you keep attention of your audience. Well, vary your facial expressions. uh, Begin with a smile, right, as you start your presentation. Do not look tense, do not look angry, do not look as if somebody is forced. So a smile communicates actually you are willing to give the presentation, you are ready to give the presentation, you are confident enough, and you would like to have better audience relationships, so on and so forth. But change your expressions to correspond with the thoughts you are voicing. Now, it doesn't mean you keep the smile for whole thing for all the time, right? You might have to change your expressions as according to the content, the information you deliver. So your facial expression should communicate the same as your words communicate, because if there is conflict in your words and in your facial expressions, that will confuse your audience, that your words say something different but actually your non-verbal displays something different. You can shake your head to show disagreement, right? Or you can roll your eyes to show disdain. So these are a few things we have already covered them under forms of nonverbal communication. There are a few more facial expressions since we have already discussed them in detail, so I would not like to go into much detail with that in this lecture. Polishing your delivery and following up. So delivery method, that's very important. How will you deliver the presentation? Well, quite often new novice professionals, they think that memorizing presentation is the best way, and they think it's all right and it's easiest way, whereas as a matter of fact, to me, that is the most difficult way, or that's the most difficult delivery method, and it has many disadvantages as well. For example, the first problem with memorized method is that you sound wooden and unnatural. Those who have memorized the presentation, they just stand up like a robot, right? Even robots have movement, that as if somebody has just planted you and there is no movement, and you are just in stand at ease position, or in any posture, and usually straight posture, right? And that sounds unnatural, because when we interact naturally with others, we have our body movement, our facial expressions, our change in pitch of voice, right? Secondly, if you forget something, you memorized a presentation, and if you forget that thing during the presentation, that can be disastrous. Your confidence level is going to come down to the zero, right? And it can be difficult to overcome that problem in the presence of audience, right? However, a few quotations or phrases can be memorized, right? That there are just one or two quotations of a line or two that sometimes is even appealing. People may even admire you. That is a different thing, but it's never recommended to memorize the whole presentation, and that actually can create problems for you. Well, next it is reading. The second delivery method that usually new presenters, novice presenters think they should go for. They think that okay, they can read. That reading can be from a piece of paper, or that reading may be from a PPT or from some other device, right? Now, like reading from PPT does not change, that remains reading. Sometimes people think that okay, now because they are not reading from paper and they are reading from PPT, it's all right. No, nothing changes, because when you go only for reading and your audience is sitting in front of you, it becomes boring and ineffective. The audience feels that you are not talking to the audience, you are actually talking to that piece of paper or to that device, maybe your cell phone or the projector or whatever the device you are using. People think you are talking to that device or to that screen. So an audience also doubts your expertise. They say okay, fine, because you are not expert in that area, that's why you are reading every word from a slide or from a piece of paper or from your mobile or from your tab or any other gadget, right? And another issue is that when you read, you are unable to maintain eye contact with your audience. Well, in physical presentation, in presence of audience, it is very important you maintain eye contact with the audience, because if you do not maintain eye contact, then your audience will soon lose interest in your presentation. So, and if while if you focus all the time only on reading, then it may also be a problem that you cannot see audience reaction, how audience reacts, whether they like your presentation, they do not like your presentation, because through their non-verbal, their facial expression, their posture and gestures, they give you indication whether you should give few more examples about it, or maybe you should cut it short, or maybe if you think that they are not taking much interest, you can use some other strategy to capture their attention and retain their interest. But if you focus only on reading, you are unable to see the audience reaction. Well, then the recommended method of delivery would be notes method, like the one that we use usually with these PowerPoint presentations, right? You note down some important points, right, about that each topic. Those important points are not too long like paragraphs, and they are not also too short like a word. They are with reasonable length. They can be one or two sentences, and they can be like 4 to 5 or 6 bullet points on each slide. These points help you actually, that they keep you on track. You know what you are going to cover, and at the same time you are not focusing only on that page or only on that screen. You just have a look at the point, and then you give rest of the details, from your expertise and that you have rehearsed already, right? So this is a recommended one, and this is what you should use for your presentation that you are going to upload. Unfortunately we cannot have face-to-face presentations, so you will be required to upload your presentations on in your classroom. I'll create assignment presentation for that. Okay, so delivery techniques. Well, before presentation, you must prepare thoroughly. If you are not prepared and you expect the presentation to be effective, there are less chances, especially when you are a new presenter or a novice presenter. Well, once you become seasoned and experienced, then you may not require that much of preparation. Second, rehearse repeatedly. You can make your videos and you can record yourself, and you can play that video back to you, and you can know where the problems lie and issues are. You can correct them. So rehearse repeatedly. I'm not asking you to memorize, I'm asking you to rehearse, right? Practice repeatedly. The more you practice, the better you are likely to perform. Time yourself. You will never get unlimited time for a presentation, that if I were given 20 minutes. No. You have to prepare presentation according to the time you are assigned. Your organization must help you in that. That when you sit to organize, you organize according to the time that has been allocated to you. If you have 5 minutes presentation, then you must cover only that much of content that can be covered in 5 minutes. And if you have 20 points to cover, so out of those 20, the most important one that you think need to be covered according to that occasion and according to that, for that audience. So you decide. This is where your organization of presentation is going to help you. Greet members of the audience. When you enter the audience, just greet them according to their cultural or other beliefs. For example, when I usually start my lectures or presentations in Pakistan, I always salam, and also say good morning or afternoon or evening, or to address my all audience members, right? So greeting is helps you develop rapport with your audience also. Practice stress reduction. Before presentation, also practice how would you reduce the stress level. You can take an expert suggestion. You can also rehearse to reduce the stress. You can also watch your own videos, right? You may even take some coaching classes, not if not classes, at least guidance from an experienced colleague who can help you with that. Well, delivery techniques during your presentation, begin with a pause. Just don't enter the room and start speaking, right? Just hold on for some time, relax yourself. Some time doesn't mean 20 minutes, it means say hardly 30 seconds or a minute. Pause for a while, right? Let also audience understand and settle down. They might take 15-20 seconds to settle down. Once the presenter is there, then you can start. Maintain eye contact with the audience, because if you do not maintain eye contact, audience may have many interpretations. One interpretation may be that since you are not expert in your field, so you cannot make eye contact. Another interpretation can be you are not interested in giving that presentation. Third may communicate that you have lack of confidence. So there can be many interpretation. It's better to maintain eye contact. Next is slow down your speaking speed, your speaking pace. Well, if you speak too fast, your audience may not understand many points. And if your audience does not understand, then that is a communication failure. So we have to be reasonably slow, right? And your movement should be naturally. Do not just start, jogging in the session, right? Just when you move forward and backward, naturally move it, and just it shouldn't be too slow and it shouldn't be even too fast. Too slow may not matter that much, but being very fast can be distracting for the audience. Well, summarize your main points. That has already been covered multiple. Okay, so that was all about formal presentations. We have covered the topic in three recorded lectures, and a reasonable depth has been covered, and I hope you understand it. If there are any issues, we will discuss them in live sessions. Please feel free to ask any questions or any explanations, or if you have any uh, confusion, so we can cover it in the live session. Anyhow, once again, thank you very much for patiently listening to this recorded lecture, and please do take good care of you and your family members. Inshallah, see you in the next live session next week. Thank you. After your presentation, distribute handouts if you have any handouts, so you can distribute them after the presentation. Do not do that in the beginning or in the middle. Yes, if there is some activity that needs to be done, that may be done. Otherwise, if there are just handouts, give them at the end. Otherwise, that can create disturbance or distraction. Encourage questions if audience have any question. Again, it depends how much time is available and if you are allowed to take the questions. So, but if you are allowed, then you can encourage questions. Reinforce your main points as discussed in conclusion already, that those that are important points, just repeat them, focus on them. Keep control. Do not allow an individual to take over. In question answer session, there might be somebody who may take most of the time. So don't do that. Keep control, right? And give equal opportunity to all audience members. And end with a summary and appreciation. Do not forget to sum up, and do not forget to appreciate your audience.